Hello, and welcome again to another episode of Talkin CRM. My name is Colin Brogan, and with me today, as always, Megan Heuer. Megan, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Colin. How are you today?
Feeling really good, despite the fact I've got shot 2 coming up. I guess I'm saving my energy for later. But in the meantime, I am excited, and I know you are too, for our next guest. We have with us in studio or via satellite today, Yuri Vedenin. If I'm pronouncing that right? He's giving me the high sign.
Yeah. Hello, Colin. Hello, Megan.
Founder of the journey mapping software enablement company, UXPressia. Yuri, welcome to the show.
Yeah, pleasure to be here. Hi, Colin. How are you doing today?
Yeah, doing well. And if you watch the show a lot, you know that we've done explainers on journey mapping. Both Megan and I, have seen the value of journey mapping over many years as kind of a core way to make sure that your strategy adheres to your customer needs, right? So you're creating a bespoke strategy, set of touch points, set of messages to make sure that you move your customer through the funnel. But you have an interesting solution, right, to journey mapping. And I'd love for you to talk to us a little bit about what led you to found UXPressia and a little bit about the company.
Sure thing. So, yeah, I think it's all started in 2012 because, back then I founded a UX agency, and we started providing UX services. And I think at the same year, we also started teaching people as well. And I think the next major milestone were 2014, when a lot of people were asking us where they can find a nice tool to do journey mapping, because we've been teaching them, we've been consulting them, and we tried to find a tool for ourselves in the first place. So we did our market research, and all the tools on the market that we found, unfortunately, didn't suit us. They were either ugly or expensive, or both, which surprised us back then. So we couldn't recommend anything. And I remember I read one nice article that at the end of that article, the author mentioned that there were no tools in the market. And so he and the whole community is actually expecting that and waiting for that. And I talked to my colleague and asked her, why should we wait? Let's try and create one. So something that started as the side project back in 2014. Soon, I think after a year and a half, appeared to be not a side project. Back then, we started, as I mentioned, as an agency that wanted to create a tool for ourselves, for our clients. And we started with journey mapping. I think it was 2016, maybe. So 1 or 2 years after we launched, when I think it was Forrester who knocked our door and asked whether we are okay if they include us into their report of journey mapping tools. And only then I realized, no, it's not a side project anymore. It's something bigger than that. Yeah. And after that, we turned out to be a company with more than 200,000 users across the globe, with some interesting, really. Sometimes I don't even realize how many users are actually we have literally across the globe. And with some big names as well. What I wanted to, so the thing is that after that, we turned our solution to be not only journey mapping tool, but we also added personas, we also added impact maps, and actually we want to transform it to kind of a CX hub, or something that CX and UX professionals or any other people that are working on the customer or human-centric solutions that they can use in their work, and they can gain more insights on how to improve their products or service they are working on. Yeah, I think that's the story. I can definitely tell more about like my personal connection to that if you want to hear that. Why I decided to run that human and customer centric business, but that's the main story about UXPressia.
Yeah, well, it's what's amazing to me is that I've seen journey mapping in many different companies, and I see a lot of them, whether they're using tools or not, kind of they're kind of doing it the same way, but they're reinventing it all the time, right? So I see a lot of work going into kind of the formats, educating them about the formats, and it's really about the layout and less about the strategies going into the into the communication stream.
Yeah, that's really so, and that's one of the problems that we're faced with, because the journey mapping as the technique is not, I would say, is not regulated. It's not standardized. It's not something that you can easily build a software that supports that, because there are not even dozens, but in hundreds of different implications of journey mapping. So yeah, at the beginning it was very, very hard for us, and at some point we realized that not only we are struggling with that, but other people as well. And that's was the point when we started collecting different maps, and and we started grouping them and creating templates based on them for different industries. So to help people to start their mapping not from scratch, but from some template that can help them, not to copy and paste that template, but to get an idea of how it might look like. Yeah.
Yuri, I'd love to follow up on your point though about what led you to think about wanting to create, a human-centric sort of CX or UX hub. I think that language is really interesting, especially, now coming out of a year when I think we're all trying to recognize humanity a lot more. I'd love to hear about your journey to that language and that positioning.
Again, thank you so much for giving me that opportunity. Yeah. I personally have, I used to have it and I still have it, what I call personal hell and personal heaven. It's about bad and great products and services. So whenever I face any bad product or any bad service, as a user, as a customer, I feel pain, I suffer, and I really hate that feeling. I really hate when, especially in services, products. Okay, sometimes people, are very far away from. Like someone is developing a product and they might never see their customers. But if you're providing a service, that's something that for me, I mean, it's really painful. So I decided at some point that I want to influence that somehow, and that's why I started also an agency, because we wanted to create more user-centric. We started from IT, because I have development background. I used to be a software developer and business analyst, so we started from there. But really soon we found out that it's not only about software, it's about everything that is being created from humans to humans. And soon I realized after 2 or 3 years that it's not just enough to be an agency, because it will take me a lot of time to change something in the world. And what they say, it's better not to feed someone with a fish, but to help them to create a fishing rod.
Oh no, I was going to say, I think that the saying is, I know it is, it's better to teach if you feed a man a fish, you feed him for a day, but if you teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. I think that's the idea, right?
Yeah. That was one of the reasons. That's still one of the reasons why we still do teaching. So we conducted a lot of public workshops and public trainings and corporate trainings. Yeah, but once again, I decided that at some point that it's good not only to teach, but provide tools for people who are already into that. We call them internally human-centered design consultants, but that doesn't mean external consultants. I would call them, if you want, human-centered design superheroes, because these people are working either externally or internally in an organization, and they're trying to help others to think about their customers and users, about their needs and problems and so on and so forth. So I want to help them to do their work quicker and better. And if someone could work not with 1 or 2 clients per year, but I would say with 10 clients per year, and help them to become more human-centric, that's the mission where I'm trying to go with our platform, and not only with our platform, but with the things we do, because we also started doing events. Before COVID, we wanted to do the offline events for sure, but COVID helped us in some way, because in 2020 we conducted, I think, more than 20 of the events, and this year we already organized maybe 10 of them. So these events, the main idea is to unite people who are not only in customer journey mapping, but who are in customer centricity, human centricity, so that they can share their knowledge and their expertise with others, so that the whole industry can become more and more mature.
So I've got a question about your customer base. So it seems to me that if as an organization you've made a commitment to go with UXPressia or another enablement tool, you're making journey mapping a part of your company culture, right? So it's an ongoing effort. And if that's the case, what sorts of features are they looking for in a software package?
I would say that one of the there would be several features. One of them help them to visualize stuff quicker and in I would say nicer way, and that's not only words, because since journey map is the communication tool, it helps you to tell the story of your customer, of your user. And if that story is something you can easily get from the map, you can easily, I would say, get the idea. And for someone, it is to sell that story to either their management or to their clients. So it's good when you have a rich variety of visualization features that helps you to do that, to deliver that story to your audience about your customer. So I'm saying about things like emotional graph, for example, or there are a lot of our customers who are designing journey maps for different personas, and they would love to combine this stuff on one map to see how they interact one with another. And that we also call that the visualization features that helps them to do that. And collaboration as well, because especially in the post-COVID world, the online mapping became a thing, and having the ability to invite your management or your colleagues to the map you're creating, and allow them to contribute to that map, so that they can either change something if your process, internal process supports that, or at least comment on something, saying like, hey, I have that information, or I don't understand that, where are you getting that from, and so on and so forth. So that's something that they are looking for to when working with our tool. And I would say consistency maybe as well, because for people who already bought the idea. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I got to tell you, the collaboration thing is so important.
Okay,
I
so
remember the most, probably the most successful journey mapping usage I've had was with a client where we collaborated on a daily basis. I think we had it on a shared document. It wasn't fancy at this point, but just the ability to, to change and modify and send ideas back and forth, really made it a successful project. We were aligned
mhm,
to it, and we ended up being better marketers as a result.
yeah, that's so true. I mean, I really love the possibility of working with your colleagues or with someone you are creating that map for, together on one map at the same time. Yeah, that's there are so many insights, so many new ideas that have been born during such type of activity. Yeah, and one of the things that are the people who already bought the idea of journey mapping, one of the things they're looking for is something that can help them to save time. And these are all our pre-built sections and other stuff that helps, and team plays as well, that helps them to jumpstart really quick and start journey mapping, not losing time on these simple activities, simple steps. Yeah, and the last one is consistency. Is about those who already using journey mapping in their organization. They would love their maps to be more consistent across different departments. That's something that software can help with as well.
Yeah. Yuri, you mentioned and kind of the idea of human-centric design. Are you seeing that applied not just to customer journeys, but also to employee journeys, to internal experiences? And how are you seeing that work for companies who are trying it?
Yeah, I think that that demand for journey mapping or not only journey mapping, but I would say it's general, not just customer experience, but other types of experience. And here we're talking about the employee experience. And yeah, there is a huge demand from HR specialists that are working with employee experience to create employee journey maps. And we also tried doing that as well at our company. Not even tried, but we created the employee onboarding journey map that helps us to actually, we designed it at first in our tool, and then we recreated what we designed in Trello. And in Trello, there are different tasks that is being assigned to the person, and it's like for each day they start working. Like the first day they need to do this and this, second day this and this, and so on and so forth for their whole period. We have everything in that Trello board, but that Trello board, as I mentioned before, was designed at first in our tool to better understand what problems do they face with, what we as an organization would love them to know, to master during this period. And yeah, in that Trello board, we have all the profiles of our other employees, and we have the ongoing tasks, let's say, for that person to have to had coffee before. Now it's a virtual coffee with all the people during their test period, during 3 months of their work. So yeah, that really helped us. And based on what we are now hearing from our new hires, they've never experienced something like that before, so they're enjoying so much.
That's great. And I love the connection point from sort of designing the experience and visualizing the experience to, communicating and delivering the experience in something like Trello, and then also having that mutual accountability for the people who are participating in the experience. I think that's a great way to bring the goodness of journey mapping to life. So I'm glad you shared that, and hopefully folks listening will be able to adapt some of that for their own work.
Yeah, the thing is that you just named one of the biggest problems with journey mapping is that people, okay, I would say not even sometimes, but very often they create journey maps and they rarely then do something with that, especially on the regular basis. I'm happy and I'm glad to know that there are a lot of people now that know that it's important to reuse then that information and to to start an initiative or any program or something based on the journey map that you designed, and then after you finish that program, get back to the map, update it with the most actual results, and see other opportunities that might be improved, might be used to improve the experience of your customers. So once again, there are more and more people that know about that. Unfortunately, not so many are already doing that. So yeah, that's the major issue here.
The next stage of the journey of journey mapping, it sounds like. And speaking of which, you mentioned that you, over the course of the last year, have undertaken some very significant research to understand some of the discipline of journey mapping and customer human-centric design. Can you tell us a little bit about the work that you've been doing?
Sure. I'm happy to do that. So the research lasted for almost 1 year. One of the reasons for that was COVID, for sure. So we paused it for some time, but still it was very, I would say, deep, big, and thorough research. So we conducted around 40 interviews, and we surveyed more than 250 professionals across the globe. We analyzed a tremendous amount of journey maps that our users provided us with. After that, we created the welcome survey based on these preliminary results, and we included in there questions to better understand our audience. So we got more than 8,000 of responses in our onboarding survey, and we found that there are 3 different groups. We have internal names for them. That doesn't mean that, let's say the first group called we call it user experience and service design group. That doesn't mean that only people with that job title will got into that group. Okay, so same applies to the second group, which we called CX and marketing. So it doesn't mean that the person will hold that role. But what we found out that they're different in terms, we call it difference in mindset. So it's so-called mindset personas. Mm-hmm. And the first one, as I mentioned, is UX and service design. So people primarily focus on defining interactions when they're designing journey map. CX and marketing, their primary focus on defining communications. And because of that, they're creating journey map. And finally, the third group is a IT mindset. So these people primarily focus on building systems. And because of that, let's say, which group would you like me to talk more about? Like CX marketing, UXD, or IT? I can talk a lot about them, but I don't want to dive really deep into that.
Let's start with CX marketing, given our audience.
Sure. Okay, so what we found out as for CX marketing, they're working on the brand and narrative. They think in terms of content, in terms of marketing, sales strategies, they think in terms of marketing campaigns, channels, KPIs. And their maps are usually focused on how a person becomes a company's customer and interacts with it as a customer rather than on actual usage of a product or a service. So, and these maps are often built around strategy, either content strategy or market strategy or sales strategy. And these people usually tend to organize their map, their journey map, like a marketing funnel. For sure, they do, and they name their stages in their journey map accordingly to their funnel. Like let's say day one, sometimes not the funnel, sometimes chronologically, like day one, day two, day three, day four, and so on and so forth. Or sometimes they call it like prospect, lead, and so on and so forth. So you can easily spot that map and see that, yeah, that was CX marketing. And the majority of their maps usually include channels, touch points, like different scores, KPIs. There is often a separate section in the map that captures the budget for each stage. And some of the maps include even pieces of content, deliverables for each stage, let's say links to newsletters, in-app messages, or screenshots, followed by the KPIs, and so on and so forth. As for working, let's say, with personas, because we know that when these people working with journey maps, they also work with personas. And as for CX and marketing, they concentrate more on demographics and psychographics, like habits, values, hobbies, whichever is like more like corresponds better to their goals and so forth. And mostly they focus on buyer personas, not user personas. I will stop here to see whether you have any questions or maybe any comments.
I'll tell you what, I feel like we could talk about this all day, but I know that we're coming close to the end of the show. I guess my last question would be, what's next for UXPressia? You've got the research coming out, sounds like in May. Any other plans you can tell us about?
Oh yeah. First of all, now we're trying to better understand which major features we need to develop at first, because there are, we have so-called high-touch customers, which are more like enterprise stuff like that, and we have a lot of self-service customers. We're trying to find a balance between these two groups. So it's really hard. So that's a small but important step for us to define the features that will suit both audiences. But in general, where we are moving is in directions. Have you ever heard about the concept customer journey dashboard?
I have, but probably in not the context you're talking about. So I'd love to hear about how you define that.
Yeah. So the thing is that what I would love to make is transform journey maps, and we talked about that a little bit. We touched on the topic, so they are not sometimes actionable, and I would love to help people to make them more actionable. And I see that one of the steps for that is to make them more dynamic, is to connect to maps different data sources that you can actually use to pull the data into your journey maps, to make your job of creating journey map easier and quicker, and at the same time make it more dynamic, so that the changes you make to the journey itself of your customer, to their experience, you can see on the map and dynamically work with that. So, and in terms of features, I'm talking here about different integrations that I would love to explore and then to add to us, so that we can be able to pull the data and actually make it, as I mentioned, I hope to make through that it more actionable. People will see the results of their work and will be able to get back to it.
I'm going to give you a round of applause. That's what I was hoping you would say. I love this idea of tapping into data, ideally real time, but as much operational information as you can. And that way you can see, what your customers are really doing, how they're reacting to the experience, and it really give you clues to how to fix it in the future.
Yeah. Thank you for the applause. And
yeah, we try to make it a fun show here. But Megan, I think it's been a great show. I think we learned a lot about journey mapping and the folks that are using it and how they're using it. Do you have any final thoughts?
Just thank you very much for joining us today, Yuri. This is great stuff and a really exciting area. And I'm glad we're putting the humanity back in the work that we do. I appreciate you leading the charge there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Megan. Thank you, Colin.
Thank you, and thanks for being a part of Talkin CRM. That's the end of this show, but we'll be back in the next week or so with even more guests, even more fun, and even more CRM. Bye, everybody.